The Honorable Council of the City of Evansville is hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman McGinn?
Here.
Councilwoman Hargis?
Here.
Councilwoman Robinson? Councilman Elpers?
Here.
Councilman Brinkmeyer?
Here.
Councilman Adams?
Here.
Councilwoman Mercer?
Here.
Councilman Weaver?
Here.
Councilwoman Mosby?
Here. There being 8 members present, 1 member absent, and 5 members representing a quorum, I hereby declare the session of the Common Council officially open. The Pledge of Allegiance this evening will be led by Councilwoman Mercer. Fellow councilmen and those in the audience, welcome to the January 11th, 2016 meeting of the Common Council. Recognition of schools. Do we have any students in the audience that would like to be recognized? Anyone in the audience? Teen Advisory Committee.
Yeah, Madam President, we have Jordan Holland here from Signature School, just visiting and observing.
Great. Thank you for attending. And this evening, Josh Claiborne is our City Council Attorney. The Sergeant at Arms this evening, I am so sorry.
That's fine. Stephen Tony.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here this evening.
Reports and communications. In your January 7th packet, City Council meeting agenda and committee meeting schedule for January 11th, 2016. Resolution C, 2016-1 and C, 2016-2 docket. Email material, board and commission applications. On your desk this evening, extended agenda for January 11th, 2016. Resolution C, 2016-2 docket amended, and letter from concerned citizen regarding residency requirements.
Is there a motion to receive, file, and make these reports and communications a part of the minutes of this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Weaver moved and Councilman Adams seconded to a motion to receive, file, and make these reports and communications a part of the minutes of the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries forward with a due pass.
Madam President, I am having trouble hearing. I don't think the audio's picking anybody up.
Is it not working?
I don't have access to adjust the volume. I can just turn it on or off.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have access to the actual volume. Does this help any if I raise my mic? Okay.
Consent agenda. First reading of ordinances and resolutions. No items filed for first reading. Consent agenda. Second reading of ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance G, 2015-33, an ordinance to vacate certain public ways or public places within the city of Evansville, Indiana, commonly known as the alleyway between 1912 Harmony Way, Cave Park 2nd Edition, lots 7 through 11, and 3501 Kaler Avenue, Cave Park 2nd Edition, lot 12, and part of lot 13, Evansville, Indiana, 47720.
Committee reports. Public Works Committee, Chairman Adams.
Thank you. Madam President, your Public Works Committee met this evening to hear Ordinance G 2015-33, and it comes forward with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the committee reports and move the ordinance to third reading?
So moved.
Was it Councilman Weaver? I have a first by Councilman Weaver and a second by Councilman McGinn to adopt the committee reports and move the ordinance to third meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So ordered.
Regular
Madam Clerk, please let the record show that Councilwoman Robinson is present.
Sure. Regular agenda, third reading of ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance G, 2015-33, an ordinance to vacate certain public ways or public places within the city of Evansville, Indiana, commonly known as the alleyway between 1912 Harmony Way, Cave Park 2nd Edition, lots 7 through 11, and 3501 Kaler Avenue, Cave Park 2nd Edition, lots 12, and part of lot 13, Evansville, Indiana, 47720.
Is there a motion to adopt ordinance G 2015-33?
I move to adopt ordinance G 2015-33.
I have a first by Councilman Brinkmeyer, a second by Councilman Adams, to adopt ordinance G 2015-33, and call the roll, please.
Councilman McGinn.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hargis.
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinson.
Aye.
Councilman Elpers.
Aye.
Councilman Brinkmeyer.
Aye.
Councilman Adams.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mercer.
Aye.
Councilman Weaver.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosby.
Aye. There being 9 ayes and 0 nays, ordinance G 2015-33 is hereby declared adopted. Thank you.
Resolution docket. Resolution C, 2016-2 amended docket. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of Evansville authorizing legal action to withdraw a pending appeal from the residency ordinance.
Yes, you all have the resolution C 2016-2 docket on your desk this evening, and we just felt it was necessary to file this so that we could actually stop the appeal on this. Therefore, it would actually save taxpayer dollars.
Madam President, I'd like to move to approve the amendments to this ordinance.
I have a first on the amendments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and second. Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President, I would like to point out, I have on the amendment to the resolution, 2 paragraphs were added from the original resolution. Paragraph 7 and paragraph 8 were added. I have particular concern about paragraph 8. If we want to include county residents to be able to be appointed, for example, if an Evansville business owner who lives in the county is appointed, I'm concerned that paragraph 8 could cause problems for us. Because the way it reads, it says that we recognize the importance of residents of the city of Evansville serving on advisory boards when willing and qualified. And I'm concerned that if there are city residents that are willing and qualified and a county resident gets appointed, that could cause problems. And also paragraph 7, I feel like it's extra explanatory, and I don't feel like paragraph 7 is needed. So I felt like the original resolution without the 2 amendments was better.
Just so everyone in the audience, because I always know I wondered what was going on, but the whole paragraph, the 7th that Councilwoman Mercer, it says, whereas the continued appeal of the Vanderburgh Superior Court's order has the potential to incur additional expense to taxpayers, and a decision for or against the Common Council of Evansville would reflect negatively on our community, we would like to stop this appeal. So I just felt like because that wasn't mentioned earlier, and that's certainly a reason why I'm in favor of stopping, moving forward with the appeal, would like to see it included. Am open to other discussion or comments about whether that second paragraph, the 8th, that says we recognize the importance of residents serving on these governing or advisory boards. I tried to make it sound like we would just like to encourage people and want to make sure everything we do is balanced and have a balance of interests of both residents and business owners and others who may be qualified, like we appointed the veterinarian approved the mayor's appointment last meeting. But if there's another way, or if the council would like to take that out, just want to make sure we're very conscious of that going forward.
Yes. And Josh, could that possibly be construed and get us into any type of legal, the second paragraph that was added?
Well, as Councilwoman Hargis mentioned, the one that you've referenced, the Common Council of Evansville recognizes the importance of residents of the city of Evansville serving on governing or advisory boards when willing and qualified. Ultimately, what this resolution would do, if passed, would instruct me, the attorney, to dismiss or seek the dismissal of the appeal. I can't say one way or another whether the inclusion of this whereas would influence the legal interpretation of that. I think that's more of a policy issue of whether you guys want to make that kind of statement or not.
I think it implies that if there is a city resident who is willing and qualified, I think it could cause, I think it could cause probably potential legal problem if,
Yes.
you know, if a city resident doesn't get appointed.
And I'm inclined to be in favor of what Councilwoman Mercer is saying. I'm okay with the first one, but personally, I'm not in favor of the second one because I just feel it kind of negates what we're saying. You know, I know there are a lot of qualified people in the city, but I also know there's a lot of qualified people that live in the county that own businesses, pay taxes, and everything in the city as well. So I'm not in favor of the second one.
If I may comment too, Madam President, the purpose of dismissing the appeal is to go back to the original practice and procedure adhered to by this board, which was to appoint people that we thought were qualified, whether they were residents of the city or the county. I think I think this paragraph may put undue influence on county residents, and that is not our intent. Our intent is to find people who are qualified no matter where they reside. And I think in practice, if we want, such as the mayor's done, we can put an emphasis on city, but to put it in writing, I just really don't think it's needed. I think we can still do the same thing. So I don't mind the other one. We are saving some money by dropping an appeal. And
Well,
Yes, Councilman Adams?
thank you. Both these added paragraphs have nothing to do with what we're actually doing here. It's just a descriptive phrase. I don't think it has any, and I'll defer to you, any legal bearing. The legal part of this is the Section 1 and Section 2. The whereas is what I thought was just a description as why we were doing it. And so I don't think it's legally binding, other than just as a description as we lead into the ultimate discussion as to whether we stop the legal procedure.
Yes. Any other discussion? Councilman Weaver?
Madam President, I move to strike the amendment.
I second that.
I think the original motion was for the amendment, and I apologize, Councilman Weaver, you asked me that. So I think you would either vote up or down on just these amendments. And for those that are watching, after that, we would have another vote on the original resolution without these two paragraphs, and I think that's probably the more substantive discussion point for most of you here. So right now, it's just up or down on whether to include the two whereas clauses.
Okay. And we vote on them both together? Okay.
Before we have a vote on those proposed amendments, can I just ask a point of inquiry? Once we do that, I'd like to see and have discussion on whether we would like to add the seventh one back in, or if the council's just comfortable kind of moving forward with the original resolution.
We can do that, then that amendment, okay. Yes, so that amendment could come back up.
One more point of discussion. On the seventh paragraph, I would be okay with that. I think it's extra verbiage that's unnecessary, but I would be okay with it. My primary concern is the eighth paragraph.
Okay. Great. So we're going to vote on this amendment. All those in favor of this amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Say nay.
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 Okay, so that motion does not carry forward for the amendment.
Okay. So now can we move?
Councilwoman Hargis?
Can we, I move to amend the Resolution C 2016-2 and add, whereas the continued appeal of the Vandenberg Superior Court's order has the potential to incur additional expense to taxpayers, and a decision for or against the Common Council of Evansville would reflect negatively on our community. And then there's also a small typographical error that was corrected in the original amended version. The final whereas should be Common Councils instead of Common Council. I know you guys can't see that, but it's just the spelling.
Common Council, okay. Any discussion? Oh, so I have a first on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Adams has a second. Any discussion on this? So this would be just to add the seventh paragraph in.
So you're saying keep the 7th and scratch the 8th?
Yes.
And correct the
Yes, Councilwoman
typo?
Mercer.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Just to clarify, so we'd vote on this 7th paragraph, yes or no, and then we would vote on the whole resolution with that included.
Correct. Do I have a motion on the floor for the amendment? First and second?
I
Okay.
move that we end discussion and take a vote. Is that what I'm supposed to say?
Okay. All, and second?
Second.
All those in favor to add this into the amendment to Resolution C 2016-02, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that comes forward as amended. So now, do I have a motion to accept the amendment for Resolution C 2016-2 as amended?
This is the amended version?
Yes, the
That we're
amended
voting
version.
on? So moved.
The amended version that we just added. So
The
moved.
final
Aye.
version, yes.
Great.
So moved.
I have a first by Councilman Weaver, a second by
Second.
Councilman Elpers. And then we have discussion on that as well, correct? So any discussion on this?
I'm glad we're doing this so early. I heard this throughout the campaign, pretty much everywhere I went, that while people recognize the importance of having individuals who are residents serving, they also wanted that area for business owners or people who are specialty, have some sort of expertise to also have the opportunity to serve.
And I agree as well. Just talking at neighborhood meetings and throughout the community, you know, there are a lot of people that may not actually live in the city limits, but they do have, you know, they pay taxes, they have businesses, and, you know, they should be allowed to serve on boards as well.
Madam President, since we're filing this as a resolution tonight, we don't have a second and a third reading. And, you know, I hear what you heard throughout the campaign, but I also heard from each and every one of you throughout the campaign about transparency. So why are we not giving the public a chance to come down here and voice their concerns about this? With this being a resolution and not an ordinance, we don't have a second and third reading, so we're not advertising, so the public does not know that this is happening tonight. Where's the transparency?
I'll be honest, Councilman Robinson, this is a resolution.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
And when you did this appeal last year, it was done as a resolution
We're not-
too, so there was no public
we're not talking about
discussion on
last year.
that.
You know, we keep talking about this is a new council. This is a different council. We want the public to be heard. We want the public to be involved. But yet, we're talking about filing this as a resolution, and Tom, Jim, and Joe don't know that we're doing this tonight. So I'm saying, why don't we hold it so that the public can know that they can come down here and voice their concerns, that either they're for it or they're against it, but we need to at least give the public a chance to voice their concerns.
Well,
When was this advertised, Madam Clerk?
This was not advertised, was it, Laura? Because,
We posted the agenda on Thursday.
Yeah,
is when
this-
it was
yeah,
posted.
but you
So it
don't,
was posted.
Madam President,
Yes,
Okay,
Councilwoman Robinson?
it was not heard as an ordinance where you have public discussion. So people, it's at the back and it's a resolution. That's all I'm saying, is that I think if we want transparency, why can't we hold this to the next meeting and let the public know that we will be discussing this? Because right now, it just looks like another sneaky deal.
When we appealed it as a body, was that done as a resolution?
Yes, it was.
So it was done the same way. So you're contradicting yourself.
No, Councilman Weaver, just because it was done like that in the past doesn't mean that it has to be done like that today. Transparency.
This is something we've been talking about for months,
Th-
that we
this-
were going to do
You
this.
said that in your campaign that you wanted to appeal this. I'm saying let the public have a chance to voice their concerns. I'm sure you have the votes to appeal it, but still let the public come down here.
Can-
Councilwoman Mercer?
The council meetings are open to the public. The agenda was posted online, was it not, Laura? Okay.
Yes.
On Thursday?
Yes, it was. And I'll be honest with you, I personally have been out in the community talking about this. It's been no secret that this was going to come up at one of our first meetings, and I have had numerous people tell me that they're very glad that this is going to take place.
I have a
So-
question, point
Yes,
of information.
Councilwoman Harkness.
If So since we're instructing our attorney to take action, we're not trying to add to the local ordinance or the local code book. Would it have been appropriate to do this in the form of an ordinance? I don't know.
Yeah, as someone mentioned, and I think is in the whereas, the decision from the council to direct the city council attorney to appeal it was done as a resolution on June 22nd, I believe. And so the decision to withdraw or dismiss the appeal can also be done by resolution. Obviously, if the council so chooses, you could have it done over multiple meetings. That's your choice, but it's certainly permissible to do it in this fashion also.
You know, when we've paid tens of thousands of dollars for this appeal, and you don't want to let the appellate court decide and listen to their decision, I mean, you can at least hear what the public has to say.
I think we listened to the public last year. They did not want this appeal. First of all, they did not want the ordinance, this to happen, and then second of all, they didn't want.
Things change, Councilman Weaver.
They did not want this
Why
appeal.
are you in such a rush to do this?
To save taxpayer dollars.
I think
Excuse me, Councilwoman Mercer has the floor.
I think we've heard abundantly from the public. I think each member on the council has heard abundantly from the public, and it's been in the Courier and Press for months.
And we are going to ask, after our council members, we are going to ask if there's any discussion here from the members of audience.
Yeah, see the chamber out there.
I just have one other thing to say, and this is it. If you want transparency, don't be so worried about it. Why can't you hold it for the next council meeting and let people come down here? We might not have people to come, and then we might have people to come. What is the rush? What is one more week going to do?
I'll be honest, I feel I've done my homework and spoken to, and it has been posted.
Good.
Yes, Councilman Adams?
I'll try to be brief. The intent of this ordinance was to allow those people who are constituents, the people who voted us into office, the people we are vowed to help, allow them to have more of control of the destiny of this city. And it was very controversial. There was no question there was a lot of people for and against it. And I was tempted to put a motion to table this, but because frankly, it's quite obvious the public is not here. And there was all through the meetings of this, there was a lot of discussion back and forth. And every single one of us has a cadre of people we listen to and we get to. But I don't think putting it in on Wednesday and putting it on Thursday, actually I called a few people and they were surprised that this was coming along this way. I think it's not a bad idea to do it that way. It's interesting to me also that Owensboro and Henderson have had this ordinance and had no problem with it whatsoever, but of course that's on the other side of the river. I do still think that even though the two groups of people in the county and the city certainly are equally nice people, equally smart people, but those in the city, however, I think would take a little more careful look at what was going on. For example, if you're if you live in the county, you own a business here in town, you probably aren't going to get too uptight about a spot zoning that might be occurring, but let's say a gas station next to your business, but you're going to get very uptight if it's anywhere near your home. So I think there is a commitment, a difference of sensitivity, and I do think that makes a difference. I will say that one of the off-label wonderful parts of this process over the last year was that thanks to Ted Zemer's office and Dank's office and the city clerk's office, we were forced to go and look at every single one, what the verbiage said for every single one of these committees. And if I'm doing this right, you'll have to bear with me on the numbers. I think 42 of the committees and boards have to have city thing. And we didn't know that before. It was very confusing back and forth. So at least 2/3, 78% of people, these boards and committees have to have city people on there. Having said that, I really would like to thank my colleague, Councilwoman Connie Robinson, who has done an amazing job in terms of creating consensus, husbanding this a lot on, and I think it still is a good idea for those people we are supposed to represent. Thank you.
Any other discussion from council members?
I had
Yes,
a,
Councilwoman.
I'm sorry. I had a question about the forthcoming decision and when that might be expected. That was my only reason I would like to see us vote on it tonight, just because I think that any sort of negative, any sort of decision, whether it's for or against the council, really reflects poorly on our community. But I'm not sure when that decision, if we have a range, if if we wait until the next council meeting, are we at risk of a decision coming down, or is that still a couple weeks away? I don't know, Josh, if you have any insight into that.
Sure, this is with the Indiana Court of Appeals, and unfortunately, they don't have a strict timeline for issuing their orders or opinions, and so we don't know. Based on prior experience and other cases, if I had to guess, an opinion would likely come down in February. On the other hand, it could come down in March, or it could come down next week. You just don't know. But
From what I've heard, it probably will come down in March or April.
I mean,
So I really don't see any harm for allowing the public to come and express their, it's very controversial. There's no question about it. I don't think any of the new people understand how incredibly controversial this issue is. This is a third rail.
Councilwoman Hargis was talking about the additional expense. Josh, let me ask you, this would be an additional to your contract. This is something that's outside of your contract, so we'd have to pay you to withdraw the appeal?
well, I would consider the dismissal to be de minimis, very, very minimal. I mean, I think
But we would have to pay you at that $150 an hour.
I think the real expense is if the Court of Appeals comes down and, let's say, goes against rules that the ordinance is valid, and let's say the mayor's office decides to appeal it further to the Supreme Court, then it's a lot of expense. So again, that's up to you guys, but if you're happy with the lower court's decision, we could dismiss it and ensure that there's minimal costs. Otherwise, there's the risk of you don't know what the Court of Appeals could say, and then more litigation after that, potentially.
I see no reason to postpone the vote, and if it gets postponed, there is the potential of incurring more expense. I feel like we've heard from the public for months.
How much more expense could we incur in postponing it for a week to our next meeting, or 2 weeks, whenever the next meeting is? How much more expense are we going to incur, Councilwoman Mercer?
Well, again, we've heard
How
from
much
the
more
public
what's
for
gonna
months.
cost us?
I see no reason to postpone
The
it.
same
We've heard
people
from
that
the
voted
public.
you, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Councilwoman Mercer
Yes, I
has
said-
the floor.
I know.
Yeah.
President Mosby, I'd like to address Councilwoman
Yes,
Mercer.
I mean, I
The
think
same
that's been
people that
addressed.
voted you in, you no longer think those people are qualified to be on boards?
Again, we've done our homework. We've heard from the public for months. I feel like this needs a vote tonight.
Any other discussion from
I think we need
council?
a vote tonight as
Albers?
well. I'd like to steal some words from Dean Parker here, this piece of paper. He
Yes.
says, as part of a greater tri-state community, not as a narrow city-only entity. So I think we're the bigger picture here, not just the city. So
Any
Why don't
other-
I bring this to a head? I make a motion that we table this for 2 weeks.
We already have a motion on the
Yeah, I
floor.
think just to clarify, the motion on the floor right now is to accept. So, I see I see the motion to table actually would take precedence. You're right. I'm sorry, Dr.
Second.
I have a motion to table by Councilman Adams, a second by Councilwoman Robinson. All those in favor of tabling this, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to vote on C 2016-2 as amended.
Okay, I haven't asked for a public
Okay.
discussion yet, so I'm going to do that. Anyone from the audience like to speak either for or against this resolution? And when you come up, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, Council. I'm Steve Airy, pastor of the Mercy Seat, 1249 John Street. And I agree with the council members that say that we need more time and more transparency. I noticed in the last city council meeting, it appeared that many things were out of order, one of which was the vote for removing Reverend Adrian Brooks from his position before and without comment from the audience. before and without recognizing any of the people of the city and what their opinion would be. And I believe that this has become a problem since the newly elected council has stepped into office. And I would like to know, are the people in this city going to have a voice, or is it just going to be the voice of the council?
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the audience like to speak either for or against? Yes, sir. Please come up and state your name and address for the record. Okay. Anyone else like to speak either for or against? I have a motion. I'm sorry, Mr. Wheeler.
Stan Wheeler, 3800 Keck Avenue. Doc, if you're talking, you said there was 42 positions that had to be city folks?
My understanding is that 42 boards and committees have to have all city members.
Does anybody know how many total appointments there are?
There's about another 15 that can have county on it, too.
So
That's my understanding.
So there's less than 60 board appointments?
Yeah.
And there's 44 of them that have to be city?
42 is my
42
understanding.
that have to be city?
Yeah.
I think we could leave it up to you guys to use your best judgment on who you want to appoint to those boards. If you've got 3/4 of them that have to be city, it looks like we're crying over a little spilt milk, but, that's...
Actually, the mayor has a good number of those appointments that have to be city appointed.
And
obviously, one of the things is we're going to have to really know that, because if you put a county person on a city board, any decision of that board, I understand, could be moot, and therefore they could get sued.
Yeah.
So you've got to have city people on city boards.
It looks to me like 3/4 of them have to be city folks anyways, and if it's a board that has to do with medical stuff, they're not going to put me on it. I hope they put you on it.
They may not.
And that's what we have you for, you guys for. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? I would now like to call for a voice vote. Call the roll. I'm sorry. Rook.
Councilman McGinn,
Would you, there was so much discussion, would you review what we're,
Yes, we are actually voting on Resolution C 2016-2 as amended, and the amendment was the 7th paragraph. Am I correct, Councilwoman Hargis?
Yes.
include the 7th and scratch the 8th with
Yes.
the typo correction?
Yes. And so we're going to have Madam Clerk to call the roll.
Councilman McGinn,
Yeah, my vote is simple, and I'll be as transparent as I've been from day one on this. I never liked the ordinance. I voted against it. I didn't want to appeal it because I agreed with the decision of the local judges. I voted against the appeal. So I will be very transparent. I will remain the same. After listening to everyone, I still believe that this original ordinance excludes a lot of talent who have every right. If they own millions of dollars worth of real estate and business, they own every right to have a say-so in how they are governed when it comes to that business and that real estate. So I vote yes to get rid of this appeal.
Councilwoman Hargis,
I fully agree with Councilman McGinn, so I vote aye.
Councilwoman Robinson,
Nay.
Councilman Elpers,
Aye.
Councilman Brinkmeyer,
Aye.
Councilman Adams,
With due respect to my colleague at my right, I vehemently feel just the opposite. I think it was a wonderful gesture. I think it had good meaning, and I therefore vote nay.
Councilwoman Mercer,
I vote aye, and just want to reiterate what Councilman McGinn said, that there are sometimes business owners that contribute greatly to the economic development of our city and provide jobs for the city, and it's important that we at times include those people on boards. So I vote aye.
Councilman Weaver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosby.
I just want to concur with what Councilman McGinn said. We've been talking about this for a long time. I'm out in the public a lot, and all I've been hearing is how many people were not happy with this ordinance to begin with, and then very unhappy that it was appealed and wasted taxpayers' money. So therefore, I vote aye. There being 7 ayes and 2 nays, Resolution C 2016-2 amended, is hereby declared adopted. Miscellaneous business. The next meeting of the Common Council will be Monday, January 25th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. The committee meetings will begin at 5:25 p.m. Boards and commission appointments. Council will be making appointments to the following boards and commissions this evening: Electrical Examiners Board, Greenway Advisory Board, Haney's Corner Arts District Advisory Committee, Board of Examiners of HVAC, Steam Fitters and Refrigeration Installers, Information Technology Advisory Council, which is also called ITAC, Evansville Metropolitan Planning Organization, Commission on the Social Status of African American Males, MWE and WBE Utilization Board, Emergency Medical Services Oversight Committee, Evansville Urban Enterprise Association Board, Vanderburgh County Criminal Justice Commission. And I do want to just let the public know that each council member has received the application along with resumes so that they were able to process these and look at these prior to tonight's meeting. On the Electrical Examiners Board, this board has one appointment to be made by City Council. There was one applicant, and the applicant was Nicholas Vaught. And this is a one-year appointment.
Any discussion?
Madam President, can I make a motion to appoint Mr. Vaught?
I have a motion by Councilman Weaver,
Second.
a second by Councilwoman Hargis. Any discussion on Mr. Vaught's appointment?
I spoke with him today, and he's been with IBEW since 1998, has been a journeyman for a lot of years, and was appointed to this board and kind of lost his position, but is very interested in still serving in this capacity. And to my knowledge, the person who we previously appointed did not have interest in continuing, but I was not able to confirm that.
Yes, thank you. And I also did reach out, and Mr. Vaught, very interested in this position and very experienced.
And he wanted me to apologize that he couldn't make it tonight.
Okay. All right, any more discussion? All those in favor for appointing Nicholas Vaught to the Electrical Examiners Board say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries forward with a due pass for Mr. Vaught. Greenway Advisory Board. This board has one appointment to be made by City Council. I know that it says there were 3 applicants, but actually there are 2. One is Mitch Luman, and the other is Sarah, is it Spellbring?
I just wanted to clarify, on the third one, Nicholas Wildeman, he was appointed by the mayor already, so that's why she didn't read it.
So he's already serving going to be serving on the board at the pleasure of the mayor.
Madam President, I'd like to move that we appoint Sarah Spellbring to the Greenway Advisory Board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
I have a first by Councilwoman Hargis, a second by Councilman Elpers to appoint Sarah Spellbring to the Greenway Advisory Board. All those in favor say aye.
Wait, Madam President, discussion. Can we have discussion?
We do have a motion second. We were having discussion and
We have,
yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so we're first and second, and then we are having discussion before we take a vote.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, I believe there's a better qualified candidate. There's only one position in this case. Mitch Luman is Director of Science Experiences at the Evansville Museum of Art, History, and Science. I'm very familiar with his work at the museum. He's done a tremendous job at the museum. He's also has a lot of experience serving on various other boards, including Wesselman, and I think he would be an excellent candidate for the Greenway Board.
Madam President?
Thank you. Yes, Councilwoman Hargis.
Sarah is the secretary of our Midtown Neighborhood Association, and she's a teacher at Montessori and is very interested in seeing the Greenway expanded. And I think she would be very diligent and detail-oriented and attend the meetings. I also thought Mr. Lumen was very qualified, so I gave him a call because he had applied for a couple of other boards and commissions as well, and did not seem particularly tied to being appointed to this specific board, but just asked that we consider him to serve. He recently relocated from Posey County, is working for the museum, has a specific experience and interest in the emergency management group, but we don't have an appointment to that, as I let him know. So certainly if we can find another spot for him, I would really like to see Sarah, someone who hasn't served in the past, be appointed to this position.
Great. Any more discussion? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of Sarah Spelbring, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries forward for Sarah Spelbring to be appointed to the Greenway Advisory Board. Next, we have the Haney's Corner Arts District Advisory Committee, and this board has 2 appointments to be made by the City Council, and we do have 2 applicants. One being David Ballard and the second being Scott Baker.
Madam President, I'd like to move that we potentially postpone this, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say postpone or table, so I apologize, but postpone this to our next meeting. There was an individual currently serving as the business interest representative who was not able to get his application in, and I would love to have our council be able to make that decision with all 3 applicants. And they may or may not be reappointed in the future, but would like to afford them that opportunity if the council is willing.
Madam President, we have 2 applicants that got their applications in on time, and Scott Baker is he has a business in the Haney's District Advisory Committee, Haney's District, and I vote that I'd like to see us vote tonight on the 2 applicants that have turned in their applications.
I concur. I mean, this term started January 1st, we're already 3rd through the month.
I'd like to see us vote tonight also.
I agree.
Yes. And I do want to say, I know both applicants, both great people, and as Councilwoman Robbins said, Scott Baker does own a business, lives in the area, and I do know him, great man, and he was very, very interested to serve on this board, to continue to serve. Any other discussion?
Question. I wasn't able to, I should have asked, but I don't know when the first meeting is because it said quarterly, so I'm not sure if there's a meeting before our next council meeting, but that might be a good piece of information to have before we make a decision.
I can answer that, Councilwoman. The first meeting of the Haney's Corner Advisory Committee will be February 18th, and it was Phil Raspberry that is currently serving that he says that he was unable to get his application in for the position of business representative on the Haney's Corner Advisory position. So, but we talked to Phil today, and he said he was still interested, and he would like to put his application in if the council would table this until your next meeting. But there is no meeting until February 18th, so there would be time if council wanted to entertain that.
Kelly, Phil Raspberry, what did he serve as last time? Was it also business interest?
Scott Baker served as Lomod resident, and Phil Raspberry served as the business representative.
How do we proceed?
There was a motion on the
I think we have a
floor, but
motion.
no
There's not a second, though.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. So all those in favor to hold this until our next meeting, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. So we will not be holding this until our next meeting. We have a motion and a second. And any more discussion?
Is the motion to appoint someone?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Ballard and Mr. Baker.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. I have a motion by Councilman Weaver, a second by Councilwoman Hargis to appoint Mr. Ballard and Mr. Baker to the Haney's Corner Arts District Advisory Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Mr. Ballard and Mr. Baker will be our appointments for that position. Next is the Board of Examiners on HVAC, steam fitters, and refrigeration installers. The board has one appointment to be made by City Council. There are two applicants for this position. They're Jason Blondin and Don Merle. And this also is a one-year appointment. 5 years' experience in one of the trades of HVAC, steam fitter, or refrigeration is a requirement.
Madam President, I move that we appoint Jason Blondin to the Board of Examiners of HVAC, steam fitters, and refrigeration installers.
I second that.
Okay, I have a first by Councilwoman Hargis, a second by Councilwoman Mercer. Any discussion?
Yes, every certificate that I've ever heard of has
Yes.
anything to do with HVAC. His resume looked great. I don't know the man, but his resume was impressive.
I agree.
He was so nice on the phone, and he spent 21 years as a steam fitter, and he also lives in the 3rd Ward.
Yes, great. Any other discussion? Do I have a motion to appoint? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We will have Mr. Jason Blondin to the Board of Examiners, HVAC steam fitters, and refrigeration installers. Next is the Information Technology Advisory Council, and it's also called ITAC. This board has one appointment to be made by City Council, and there is one applicant, and it's Mr. Brent Jackson. The term of this office looks like a 3-year term.
It's actually a 4-year term. It's the
It is
term
a
of
4-year
office
term?
of designating body.
Okay. Sorry, so it's a 4-year term on this. Do I have
I'd like to make a motion, Madam President, to appoint Mr. Jackson to the ITAC committee.
I have a first by
Second.
Councilman Weaver, a second by Councilman Adams. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to appoint Brent Jackson? We did have a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries forward to appoint Brent Jackson to the Information Technology Advisory Council, which is ITAC.
Madam Clerk, I was also confused on the website. I couldn't figure out what term, but I think it was different because it's different appointing bodies. So I don't know if the system allows any way to clarify.
It
but-
does not allow us.
All right, thanks.
Evansville Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Committee, and this board has one appointment to be made by our City Council. There are two applicants, Jack Korn and Nicholas Wilderman, and this is a 1-year appointment.
I make a motion that Jack Korn be nominated.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Adams and a second by Councilwoman Hargis for Jack Korn to be our appointment. Any discussion?
I've known Jack for a number of years. He's the president of the MPO right now, of which I'm a member also, and I think he does a very good job. I think he's got good balance.
Councilman McGinn?
I've known Jack 15 years. I also serve on the Mesca Park Zoo and Botanic Garden Advisory Board with him. Jack's a real plugger. He's on there. He'll show up at every meeting. He'll work hard and he'll do his job, and he loves working for the city.
Great. Any other discussion? I would like to make a voice vote to appoint Mr. Jack Korn to the Evansville Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Mr. Korn will be our appointment for that position. Next is our Commission on the Social Status of African American Males. And yeah, this one actually has 4 appointments to be made by City Council. And we do have 4 applicants. One, John Porter, Kurt Clement, Aaron Calbert, and David Ballard. And the applicant must be a city resident. Appointing bodies shall strive to make the representation appointments in hopes that the commission may be made up of the following persons. It says a member of council, member of city administration, a representative from a college, university, or trade school located in Vanderburgh County, a representative from a local hospital, a representative from labor organization, union, or trade, a representative from local neighborhood associations. And these we do have 4 appointments to make on this. And these are 2-year appointments. I'm sorry.
not a member of this.
No, you're not. That was actually just copied and pasted before on
Yes.
the qualifications, but you're not.
No.
Point of information, I'm sorry, I'm asking so many questions.
No, that's fine.
On the website earlier today, I thought we only had 2 appointments that the terms had ended, but I just wanted to clarify and make sure we were
There have been some people that resigned or moved
Okay.
since then.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, so we actually have 4 openings on this. So we have a motion and a second. No, I'm sorry, we do not on this one.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion for the 4 applicants.
Councilman Weaver made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Adams for these 4 applicants. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries forward for John Porter, Kirk Clement, Aaron Calvert, and David Ballard. MBE and WBE Utilization Board. This board has 1 appointment to be made by City Council, and there is 1 applicant, Jamie Weinzappel, and this is a 2-year appointment.
I move that we appoint Jamie Weinzappel.
I have a first from Councilwoman Hargis and a
Second.
second by Councilman Elpers. Any discussion?
I have a point, maybe I didn't read it right, but I couldn't find her resume today when I was looking for it.
There were several people this time that did not include a resume with their
I
application.
wonder if in the future we can't demand that people give a resume, because a lot of these people are kind of friends of friends, and I just like to have some idea of what they're, if you want to determine what a man's going to do in the future, you find out what he's done in the past. And a woman, for that matter.
It states on the website that they must have application, but that's not like they're able to submit it without one.
Yes.
But in the past, there have been people that refused to give their resumes. You and I talked about that last year, and we just decided they weren't going to be nominated.
Any other discussion?
I don't know Jamie personally, but she owns that. She's a part owner of that toy store on Franklin Street.
Okay, great.
Got a great name, too.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All those in favor to appoint Jamie Weinzappel to the MBE WBE Utilization Board, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Jamie Weinzappel will be our new appointment for that position. Emergency Medical Services Oversight Committee, and this board has 1 appointment to be made by City Council, and this appointment must be a City Council member. Do we have any council members that might be interested in serving on this?
Can I appoint myself?
Pardon me?
Would there anybody else rather do this?
Anyone interested?
Michelle would be a grant candidate.
Councilwoman Mercer, you would be willing to serve on this?
I move to appoint Councilwoman Mercer.
Second.
I have a first by Councilwoman Hargis, a second by Councilman Weaver. Any discussion? I think Michelle would do a great job on this. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Mercer. Any other discussion? All those in favor for Councilwoman Mercer, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Congratulations and thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Evansville Urban Enterprise Association Board, and this board has 4 appointments to be made by City Council. Unfortunately, we do not have any applicants for this appointment. So I would like to encourage,
I have somebody that might be interested, and I'll be glad to
yes,
encourage that
please.
person tonight when I get home before the game.
Great. And Madam Clerk, if you don't mind letting everyone know what site to go to and where to locate that?
Sure. You can go online, www.evansville.in.gov/boards, and click on whichever board you're interested in. In this case, the opening is for Evansville Urban Enterprise Association Board, and it says click here to apply.
Great. Thank you. So hopefully we'll keep everyone informed on, and also one is a council member, so please be looking to see if you are
Is that the
interested in
4th?
serving on that position.
Is that the 3rd and 4th ward?
It's whose district includes the zone. I believe it is 3rd and 4th. Yes.
Okay.
And there are, when you get on there are a council member whose district includes a zone, and another one is a representative of business within the zone, Democratic zone resident and Republican zone resident. So there are some qualifications for that as well. Next, we have the Vanderburgh County Criminal Justice Planning Commission, and this board has one appointment to be made by City Council. This appointment must be a City Council member. Vanderburgh County, and so this is actually a term of office, so it's a 4-year term. Do we have anybody on council that would be willing to serve on this board? Do you, Madam Clerk, do you know when this one meets?
I was on it last year, and we met once for about 45 minutes with threatening second meeting, but that never happened. I would think an annual fresh face would go a long way.
So I'm sorry, when does this meet?
We are not sure when it meets, but Councilman Adams said he had served on it last term, but you met once a year? Once a year.
Maybe twice at the most.
I'll volunteer, and I'm sure we can work out something with the time. So
Great. We have
Kind of interesting.
Councilman Elpers has volunteered. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion that.
Motion from Councilman Weaver.
Second.
I have a second by Councilwoman Hargis. Any discussion? I appreciate you volunteering for that, Councilman Elpers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Councilman Elpers. Council members, are there any other additional miscellaneous business to bring forward?
I just have a bit of information. When we appointed liaisons and representatives at last meeting, we kind of overlooked one, Gage.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and so just to let everyone know, I'm the city council rep on the Gage board now, so if you have any questions about Gage, let me know. It meets monthly, so hopefully I'll know what's going on.
Yes.
So put that in your little notebook and call me if you want to know about Gage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McGinn. Any other council members?
January is National Mentoring Month, so there are a lot of organizations in our community who support mentoring. So I would encourage you to learn more about that and at least say thank you or give a phone call or an email to someone who's mentored or helped you, just as a sign of appreciation during this month.
Great.
And it's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Do we have anyone from the audience under miscellaneous business? Yes, sir. Please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Ron Mottler, and I live at 2529 South Ruston Avenue in Evansville. At your January 4th, 2016 meeting, you appointed a new Police Merit Commission member. As of that date, your appointee to the commission wasn't a resident voter as required by city ordinance. On January 6, 2016, your appointee went to the local license branch to register to vote so he could be a legal member of this commission. Wasn't Brandon Scott action to sign up to vote after he was elected to this post a cause for concern about his legal status?
And I will answer that. That was part of the qualification period, and he just had to, on his actual application, he put that he was not registered to vote, but if he was appointed to that, he just had to register prior to being sworn in.
Since he didn't meet the requirements of city ordinance at the time he was voted to this position, do you consider his appointment legal and binding?
No, I just answered that. We had a qualification period, and therefore he was able to, on his application, he said he was not registered to vote during the qualification periods. He is now registered, so he has been sworn in and he is our member.
Is there also a state statute that states a member of the Evansville Police Merit Commission should be a city resident for at least 3 years before being approved by the council?
No, that's my understanding. That's if that is 5 or more board members, and this is a 3-member panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just
Oh,
to
did-
clarify, Councilwoman Mosby,
Commissioner.
I think what he's referring to is a statute that applies to merit commissions that were essentially created after January 1st of 1983. Evansville's was created prior to that date, and so that chapter doesn't apply to our merit commission.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Committee reports. Chairwoman Robinson?
Madam President, Public Works Committee will hear ordinance G 2016-1, January the 25th at 5:25.
Finance Committee, Chairman McGinn?
Yes, Madam President, on the next meeting, we will hear Resolution C-2016-01, which is a preliminary resolution declaring an economic revitalization area for property tax phase-in for a very interesting business, Sam Tucker LLC. And I think when you see it, you'll be extremely interested. It's a nice business.
And that's actually February 8th, correct?
I'm sorry, February 8th, yes.
Perfect. I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, a first by Councilman Weaver, a second by Councilman Adams. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Roll
Meeting
Tide.
is adjourned.